Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we got Dean. Dean, I'm horrible at pronouncing your last name.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
Long last Greek name, Generakis.
Generakis. Dean Generakis of Bernie Bang. It's a donut shop in the Mile End in Montreal. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm Curtis Killen. This is the Freemium Podcast. I met Dean through my girlfriend, Teresa, and I was actually just at Dean's wedding in Greece this past summer. We had a blast, a lot of dancing. That was my first ever super Greek wedding.
Yeah, the real My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh, yeah, that was the real deal. How's married life?
The same. Considering we were living together beforehand, not much has changed. I like to say the wallet's a little bit lighter, the numbers in the bank account are a little bit smaller, and the hand is heavier. That's it, But aside from that, not much has changed.
That's good. Every one of my buddies that ends up getting married, you ask them like 2 weeks later, they go on the honeymoon and they do whatever, and you go like, oh, how's married life? They go, it's the same.
Yeah.
I just have a title
changed
on it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Considering it was Thanksgiving weekend, we were very busy. Saturday we had those torrential downpours.
Yeah.
We had a lineup around the block. Like, it doesn't really, the rain in a weird way doesn't really affect, or the cold weather, what we saw last year, doesn't really affect our business. Sunday's usually the quieter day out of the two, but Sunday was very busy because of Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. The donut business is new to us. We opened 2.5 years ago. We weren't involved in pastry whatsoever before. My father, who's my business partner, and our other business partner, we all grew up in restaurants. I went to pastry school and culinary school, if you want to call that. I'm not a pastry chef.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not a pastry chef whatsoever. But like, you dabble in overall, like you dabble in pastry a little bit overall.
Yeah.
And like, you make donuts, but you're making like 24 at a time.
Yeah.
As opposed to making batches of 500 at a time.
So you went to culinary school with the hopes of being a chef in a restaurant, I guess? That was the original plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's like everyone's dream, right? To be like a chef and to wear the white coat.
Yeah.
It's...
You're in the juice, you're making deals.
Yeah,
you're making plates and stuff like that. Hurry up, table 34, let's go.
Yeah, table 34. You have the kitchen tattoos, you're covered in scars, burns, you're just like used to it. Asbestos hands, you don't feel any heat or anything anymore. But, I mean... Coming from an immigrant family, your family's dreams is always for you to go to school. So my grandparents came, both sets of grandparents are Greek, right? So they came from Greece. My parents, went to high school, and then my mom, she now works for Rolls-Royce. I think she's going on like 30 years. Well, she worked for Omega first, Omega Leasing, and then she became Holland, and now it's Rolls-Royce. Yeah. So she's worked there for like 30 years.
Is that the place on Decatur?
Yeah, Decatur. Okay. Yeah. So now, and then my dad has been in restaurants his whole life. So their dream for their kids is obviously like do better than we did. Yeah. Go to school.
Yeah. Like most
parents want. Yeah, exactly. Most parents want better for your kids, but and so it's like I went to a great high school. I went to Royal West. I loved it. Greatest experience of my life. I did well considering I never opened the book. I was like one of those so you get degrees kind of things. Coasted through with the 75.
I'm the same way, yeah.
And then
never really applied yourself. It's like last minute, you'll study the day before an exam.
Yeah, exactly.
You get by, you're like, good enough.
Cram, yeah. And then I went to Dawson, and that's where I kind of got a little bit lost. But throughout all those years, I was working in restaurants, working in kitchens, or somehow even in the food industry. Like at one point, I was working as a butcher's assistant. I was working like the meat department at a supermarket. Okay. So always somehow involved in food. And then Dawson, it's like, I'm going to go into business. You do business and you're like, I like business, but I don't like the structure of like school and everything. Like, I don't know, you just get lost. It's like, okay, let me try something else. Yeah. Okay, let me go to early childhood education. Like, I'd like to be a teacher. I like working with kids. I like being with the public. No, drop that. Coming from a school like Royal West that was super structured, Dawson, being downtown, you skip a couple classes, you go to places like Cock and Bull or Station des Sports, watch like a midday game or something with a few of your friends. School's not important.
Yeah, have a few beers.
That's it.
I'm not going back to class.
That's it. So I got put into night school. I was on academic probation. Okay. Crawled my way back into day school, and then I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to follow my passion, which has always been cooking. And at that time, I was working with my aunt, my mom's sister. So I dropped out of school, and she's like, look, well, her obviously being my aunt, she cares for me as well. My parents are like, you want to go to culinary school, fine. But my dad warned me. He's like, get ready. The restaurant business is brutal.
Yeah.
It's hard to raise a family in the restaurant business. If this is the path you want to take, get ready to make sacrifices. So from about, I think I was 20. Yeah, I was 20. So I did about 2 years of college and then I dropped out. I wasn't the greatest student. So it's not like, oh, you just had to pass 2 more classes and you get a degree. I had a long way to go.
And you weren't into it either.
I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
I wasn't into it. Well, no, like I had some great classes. The classes that I applied myself in, that I enjoyed, I did really well. But when you have a 3-hour 16th century English poetry class, because it fits in your schedule and you have to take that class to get your credits, you know, the teacher would take attendance and I'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
So went to culinary school and immediately fell in love with it. Like it's everything I loved, and you learn like the science behind cooking. So it's basically like applied chemistry. There's a lot of theory. It's not like you go in the first day and you're learning how to make all these intricate dishes. It's you're going in and it's like health and safety, the science behind cooking. This is how you hold a knife properly. This is how you cut vegetables properly. Brunoise, macédoine, rough dice, big dice, small dice. Like, so you're learning all these things, and it's like, because it's, I guess it's, everyone says classically trained, you have to like, there's specific measurements. Not that anyone really does it in general. The very high-end places will emphasize like those specific cuts. Most restaurants don't. But it's just like, it's structure, because cooking ultimately comes from like a military hierarchy. That's why you have a chef and your sous chefs and your chef de cuisine and then your commis, which is like the guys that do like a little bit of everything else. So then throughout culinary school, you know, like I absolutely loved it. I was the kind of guy, it's like, yeah, I'm going to come in early to class because we're making bread. So I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to volunteer to stay late. Towards the end of my first year, there's a culinary competition that happens in Toronto every year. It's called, it's under Taste Canada. So I made it onto the team for our culinary school. And then we went that year and placed second, all of Canada. You know, so out of all the culinary schools in Canada, I think there was like 15 that made it. We placed second. And it was kind of like a master chef. You get like a mystery box.
Yeah.
But you get it beforehand.
So it's a competition to see who can make the best dish.
Exactly. So it's like you're given like a core ingredient.
Yeah.
And it's like you're given like a protein, and then you have to like riff on it. So other schools were getting like lobster, crab. They were getting like all these like crazy ingredients, steak. And it's like we were given chicken, which chicken is just like, a lot of people are like, oh, chicken sucks because it's always overcooked. You know, it's like a lot of people have bad experience with chicken, but you could really elevate it. And
chicken is very difficult to cook.
It is.
Because you can't undercook it.
Chicken, you can't undercook it, and then it's like 5 seconds too long on the grill or something, or in the pan. Yeah. Your chicken breast is sawdust.
Yeah. Because it's like steaks. If you undercook steak, it's not the end of the world. You can always just put it back on the grill.
Exactly. And then like there's cuts that are a little bit more lenient, the fattier cuts. Like you could take it to like a medium and it's still palatable. Yeah. But so we got chicken. So we're like, what are we gonna do with chicken? Yeah. So then
was this all on the clock too? So you had a certain amount of time to prepare the dish?
Yeah. So you're allowed a certain amount of prep beforehand. Okay. And then you have to cook and execute the dish within, I think it was an hour. So you look at the panel of judges, and we see one of the panel of judges was a sommelier, or like no, he was a sommelier, but he was a alcohol and food and beverage critic. And so we're like, okay, let's after a lot of testing and thinking, we're like, okay, let's do a riff on chicken and waffles. So we did like a savory waffle with fried chicken that we beer brined, and then we paired it with that beer. And you're taking a risk because it's in front of like. And there's like celebrity chefs there and everything. So you're on there's this panel of judges, and you're serving them chicken waffles and you're pairing it with a beer. But it's something relatable. And at the end of the day, food is nostalgia. And someone that's going to have a great experience in a restaurant, it's because you're hitting a certain memory. You're trying to make a dish relatable. You know, sometimes you go to a restaurant and there's like these crazy intricate dishes that you can't really relate to. Like, it's good, but it's like you're missing something, as opposed to like you go somewhere and like, oh, this takes me back somewhere, like a flavor that you tried or a dish that you tried somewhere else in the world, and it takes you back there. So it plays on memories and nostalgia. And I guess fast forward all these years after COVID, during COVID, when we decided to open the donut shop, that was one of our big points, is like we wanted to make a donut that's relatable, you know, like an old school donut. Like we have like the cinnamon sugar and the glazed donuts, and then we have like a little bit of the fancier dessert donuts as well.
I had no idea that you were actually like this deep into the culinary world.
I'm a geek. I'm a food geek.
Well, I can tell you have the passion.
Yeah.
So you went to culinary school. You worked in restaurants. Did you ever work on the waiter bartender side, or you're always in the kitchen?
Yeah, no. So I started. It's funny. My first job. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say this. I mean, I am, because a lot of us do it. But like most Greek kids, we go to Greek school on Saturdays.
Yeah, yeah.
So my parents were like, just go to grade 6 Greek school. Like make it to grade 6, and that's it.
Yeah.
So all of my friends after continued into like Greek high school, and then I was like, no, I don't want to go anymore. And my dad at the time had a cafe. So my dad's like, what are you going to do? Sit at home and watch cartoons on Saturday?
Yeah.
He was like, no, you're going to
come work in the shop.
You're going to come work in the shop. So it was like 6 a.m. I'm making cookies, and, you know, it's like simple recipes, but it's like, you know, you're making cookies, you're making muffins, you're learning how to serve coffee. And I loved it. So I was like 13 years old, and I got like my first like little dabble in the food service industry there. But that's where I also learned the value of a dollar.
And work ethic.
Yeah. So like you learn the value of a dollar. And to this day, I still think in the sense like, okay, if I want to buy something, how many hours of work does it take me to buy that one thing? Net, not gross, because we pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like net. How many hours do I need to work?
for days about taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Especially owning your own business.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
So it's like, so how many hours do I need to work to pay for this thing? And that's ultimately how I judge if I'm going to buy something or not, if it's worth it or not. And I have that instilled in me from the age of 13. So, and that's why like I'm a big advocate for like letting people work, or like leaving them work at a young age. I'm not saying like slave labor, child labor. Like it's let your kids work a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they'll learn the value of the dollar. They'll learn work ethic. They'll learn what it's like working and to be part of a team, you know, in a somewhat stressful environment.
Yeah.
Pastry is obviously a lot less stressful than the actual restaurant business. But I mean, when I was working with my aunt throughout my college years, and then after culinary school, I was with her for about 10 years. You know, when you're running a business, you got to be everything. You got to be the janitor. You got to be the dishwasher. You got to be the waiter. If the waiter doesn't show up, you have to be the host. You have to be the chef. You have to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, and the restaurant was downtown. It's called Da Giovanni's. It's since moved, but it was in a very rough area of downtown. It's like in front of Barrie-UQAM Metro. Yeah. So very rough area. But I mean, this place is an institution, especially in like. In the French Canadian demographic. Like if you tell someone Da Giovanni's, or even like the older generation, massive restaurant, 200-seat restaurant, 2 kitchens, a massive prep.
And this was your dad's restaurant?
This is my aunt's.
Your aunt's restaurant?
This is my aunt's restaurant.
Okay. It's Italian?
Yeah, but not like high-end Italian, like pizza, pasta, like affordable.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like a giant plate of pasta for like $14, and it comes with like a soup and a drink.
And you're stuffed after.
And you're stuffed, you're full, you know, so.
Yeah.
It was, and it teaches you, like, and then on the business side, like, where I think it's important, like, you could learn business on the job. Like, I had that base. You have the base of how, like, macroeconomics works, obviously through school, but there's nothing better than on-the-job experience. So we had a massive rent, and it's like, you have to figure out how many plates of pasta you need to sell every day to pay that rent. And it wasn't her restaurant. It was a takeover. So the original owner, there was multiple locations of this restaurant, and then they all shut down. The original location ended up with all the debt. And the original owner went up to my aunt, who they had done some business together before. He's like, I need your help. So my aunt initially did this as like more like a consulting job. And then she's like, no, I'm going to take this over. I'll inherit the debt. So she didn't actually pay for the restaurant. She inherited the debt. And we worked it off, you know, and it's when you accumulate that much debt, there's something wrong. There's something wrong that's happening at the restaurant. So it was like management, staff, crazy overstaffed, massive menu, lots of food waste, you know, and the rent was $30,000
a month. Jeez.
So you have to make sure you sell at least $1,000 a day just to cover your rent. You need to profit $1,000 a day just to pay for your rent.
Not even including the labor. That's just the rent.
That's rent.
Okay.
So 30 grand a month just in rent. And then, like I said, it's a massive restaurant.
Yeah.
So you have to staff it with wait staff, support staff, dishwashers, busboys, bar staff.
And the restaurant, it's still there today?
No, so the original location closed because they're demolishing the building. There's a condo project going up.
Okay.
And so she moved now to a smaller location closer to it's in front of the Steve's Music Store. Like if it's close to Place des Arts.
Yeah.
But that's where, just to backtrack a little bit, I always wanted to do something of my own. Like I was there for a while and I lost that drive. I got very comfortable. You know, it was okay. I was running the store. Like it wasn't stressful, but there was something missing. You know, so I wanted to do something on my own. I was looking for my own place, you know, before COVID. I'm like, I'm going to do the chef thing. I'm going to do the market fresh menu, and I'm going to run my own store and blah, blah, blah. And COVID happened.
Yeah.
Thank God COVID happened before I signed the lease.
Yeah.
And then which led to its own problems, because now here you're having a massive restaurant with no one inside.
Yeah.
And your main lunch clientele is all offices, which are now empty.
Yeah.
So you have to pivot and find a way to still somehow pay your core staff and still pump out food to cover, after the rent subsidies, to still cover the rest of the rent. So then one day we're having coffee with my father and his good friend, who's now my business partner. And we're just having a coffee at Olympico and blah, blah, blah. We're talking, and it's, it'd be nice to have a donut with his coffee. Like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Tim's or
Tim Hortons?
Tim Hortons, basically.
That's what I would think
basically.
of. And they're not good. They're not fresh.
There's like 2 Krispy Kremes in the city now, right?
Yeah.
But those all come from a central kitchen.
Yeah.
And then we do have donut shops that are like fresh donut shops, but they're more like artisanal. So they charge a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do something a little bit more affordable. But yeah, we were just talking, and it's like, oh, Dean, you went to culinary school? Figure out donuts. So there was an empty, my business partner owned the building. I should start by saying that. So he owned the building, and then there was an empty locale right on top.
In the Mile End.
In the Mile End.
Yeah.
Where we are now on Bernard Street. And so in the empty apartment, we're doing like tests. Like you're frying donuts in like a little pot of oil. You're mixing everything in a small KitchenAid. And we looked at each other. We're like, okay, are we doing this? Because if we pull the trigger, we're not getting any financial help from the banks because they're not giving a penny during COVID.
No.
So we had to front all our own money. We funded it completely ourselves, 100%. And we started like that. And so we got all the equipment in. We set everything up. And then we advertised like free donut day, new donut shop in the Mile End, free donut day. And one of our biggest, I guess, marketing points is we have a big glazing table right at the window. So you, when the donuts come out hot, we put them on a rod and we glaze them. So the donuts are dripping. And thanks to social media,
at the front, like this is
like it's on our facade. So
okay.
Like you're walking on Bernard, or you're driving on Bernard, and you're literally seeing like hot, fresh donuts dripping with glaze.
Good marketing.
Great marketing. But it also works out because it's the way, like, it's a very small space.
Yeah.
So it just worked out that's how we had the kitchen set up. So free donut day, it goes off without a hitch. It's fine. Someone posted something on TikTok. Someone from the Gazette saw it, came to do an interview. This was before we're officially opened. And they're like, so we do the interview, and they're like, when would you like to open? We're like, oh, hopefully in a couple of weeks. And in the article, they write, oh, opening next week for Mother's Day. So we all look at each other.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so we all look at each other. So we're like, oh, I guess we're opening next week.
Yeah.
No staff, no nothing. It's my father, my business partner, his kids, my now wife, my mom, and a couple of friends just coming to help out. And we were slammed from the get-go. And going back to nostalgia, there's nothing better than a fresh donut.
Yeah.
or like anything fresh, like a fresh loaf of bread out of the oven, or like a fresh hot
bagel.
donut, fresh bagel,
Yeah.
anything fresh, right? So I mean, and then it just took off from there, and we got great press at the beginning. We had the Globe and Mail, we had Eater, we had Taste It, we had Le Devoir, so we had a bunch of write-ups right at the beginning. So obviously that helps.
Yeah.
And now we're like, okay, we're here. We have to continue going. You can't let anything slip, because just as fast as social media and press could put you on the top, it could knock you back down.
It's interesting you say that, because I had a podcast last week with Anthony from Man-Made. You know Man-Made Underwear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he came by. I had him on last week. The episode isn't out yet, but he said the same thing. He goes, they were going from 10, 15, 20, a good day would be 30 orders of underwear. And then they were featured on the front page of the Gazette. And literally, as soon as that article came out, they jumped up to like 400 orders a day right after the Gazette. So does it actually make that big of a difference when you're featured in like a news article like the Gazette or Globe and Mail? Did you notice does it make that big of a difference?
For us, it did. I mean, it's literally what kickstarted the business.
Yeah.
It's because
Sam, I'm thinking about this. We got to get featured on the Gazette or something. Like, man, these guys, because you're the second person to say this. Like, business just pops off after,
Yeah.
and it's like a good story for them too. It's local. People want to support local, and like, would you agree with the statement that for Montreal, for all its flaws, I still think it's a good city overall. But people in Montreal, I find they like to support their own. Would you agree with that?
100%. The thing is with Montreal, especially in the food service, is that like I like to travel. So you travel across the world, and like you don't have to go far, but you go to places like Toronto or the States, and everything just feels very corporate.
Yeah.
It's always like big stores, and
Yeah.
like then like the restaurateur and you or the entrepreneurs use like crunching numbers, like this is a $3 million store.
Yeah.
That's no one kicks up the money for that. It's like some big corporation.
Yeah.
And then
There's no mom and pop shops, I find.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare. And Montreal is all mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Or the majority, at least.
Yeah.
And then there's like the groups that have like a couple stores, but they still make you feel welcome. They still make you feel like you're part of something. And like I always go back to saying, like, we have the best food scene in the world. Because of that, because it's not as pretentious as other places.
Yeah.
Which is like, and recently it was brought up maybe a couple of months ago, like why Montreal restaurants don't have a Michelin star, or why there's no Michelin star restaurants in Montreal.
Yeah.
And I don't think, like, it would be great, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's that kind of city where it's like you go to New York and like every other restaurant has a Michelin star.
Yeah.
Montreal, we just have great restaurants. I mean, you had Alex and John here from Tuck Shop and Satay Brothers.
Yeah.
Great restaurants.
Yeah.
You don't need a Michelin star to go eat there, or to
they're
know
both
that it's
excellent.
A great
They're both
restaurant.
very different, but they're fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, I think, just like making someone feel at home. That's what it's the hospitality industry. You want to make someone feel comfortable while they're there. So as opposed to us, where it's like it's not hospitality, we're a takeout counter essentially. We're a market. We're legally labeled under a market.
Can you sit down at Bernie Bang?
No,
or
no,
not
we have
even?
no
So
seats.
it's just takeout.
We have no seats.
You come in, you grab your donuts, you bounce.
You grab your donuts, you leave.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have a couple benches outside, and the Mile Line has like full of benches, so you could sit
Yeah.
down and eat your donuts outside. But we're such a small space, and we have so many people coming in and out that we just don't have room for seats. We don't have room for seating. But you need to make contact with a customer. You need to make them feel welcome.
You need to relate.
You need to relate,
Yeah.
even if it's like, it's a 2-minute transaction. Hi, bonjour. What can we do?
Bonjour,
for you
hi.
Actually, it's just bonjour. But that's besides the point. It's, if the government wants me to say bonjour, I'll say bonjour. If they want me to jump up on one leg and do a somersault, I'll do it. If that's whatever the rule is, I just start off with bonjour, and whatever language you want to be served in, I'll serve you in that language. We have tourists
Greek too.
Customers come, they know we're Greek, they start talking to us in Greek, I'll respond in Greek.
Yeah.
We have tourists come from South America, their English isn't great, I speak a little bit of Spanish. One of my employees is Colombian. He'll come and like translate. We have so we'll just try to serve anyone in any language. You want it to be an easy and seamless transaction. What can I do for you? You have allergies? I'll explain to you the allergens. You have an intolerance? You have likes and dislikes? I'll help you. Because we have, on any given day, we start the day with about 25 flavors of donuts. But because we make our donuts every day fresh, towards the end of the day, obviously we run out of donuts, so we don't have as many choices, but we always try to keep like a core 5 towards the end of the day.
And what are those core 5?
So
those are the heavy hitters?
Yeah, well, we call the original, so it's like glazed sugar, cinnamon sugar.
Okay.
Then we have our Oreo, which is a huge seller. The Simpson donut, so it's just like a pink icing with sprinkles.
Yeah.
Right?
The stuff that Homer used to
The
eat.
stuff that Homer used to eat.
Or sorry, the stuff that he still eats. I think Simpsons is still running.
I haven't watched TV in forever.
I think
I'm sure it's still running.
I don't watch it anymore, but
I'm sure it's still running.
I'm pretty sure it's still on, yeah.
So yeah, that's it. The Oreo, the Simpson, the Boston cream, staple. And then those are our biggest sellers by far.
Interesting. So you guys are kind of like what I'm getting from this. You're like a sommelier, but for donuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. We sell donuts. I tell we were
What's
joking
your
about
palate? What would you like to have today?
We're joking the other day. It's like we're basically just glorified kindergartners. We finger paint. We take donuts and we dip them in different colored icings.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone's palate is subjective. Like, ironically, I don't have a sweet tooth. I was the kid that never ate his own birthday cake because I didn't like sweets. So when you're
a salt guy?
I'm a big salty guy. Give me a family-sized bag of chips from Costco.
What kind of chips? What flavor?
Ketchup.
Ketchup?
I'm a ketchup guy.
I'm a salt and vinegar guy.
Yeah.
Ketchup's good too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. Anything salty?
Yeah.
Not a problem. So when we open the donut shop, we're like, okay, we want something that's relatable, that's palatable to everyone. We don't want something too sweet. And then we have like the crazy triple fudge chocolate donuts that guys gonna come and
someone
just
wants to stuff their face.
That's it. So like we have a little bit of everything, and then we have like other donuts that will model on like actual desserts. So we do like a cheesecake donut. So instead of having like a graham cracker crust as a base, you have the donut as a base, and you do like black cherry filling with a cheesecake and whipped cream. So we do like a soft spread cheesecake.
Interesting.
So it's always changing. It's always changing. So we change our flavors all the time.
Like how often? Like every week?
Every couple weeks. Let's say if something's really good, we'll keep it on for like a month or two. But I mean, we're always changing, because then it gets boring for us and it gets boring for the customers if you always have the same if you always have the same donuts.
That's a really good idea. And the other day, I go to Sumac all the time. You ever go to Sumac in the I guess it's St. Henry? It's on Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I went there and they had this. I saw on their Instagram they had a because usually I get like the chicken sandwich, which is delicious, but they had a chicken schnitzel, which was a limited time only. And the fact, number one, it looked delicious. Number two, it was delicious because I went to go try it. But I went there just to try the chicken schnitzel. It had been on the menu for 2 weeks, and I literally got the last one. But it was just cool. I agree. When restaurants are switching up the menu and stuff, and they make it a limited time only, it's good from a marketing perspective because it gives that scarcity vibe. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, I gotta go try this. This looks delicious. I gotta get it before they run out. I find it's a really good marketing ploy.
And like one of again, going back to the issue is like, because we make our donuts fresh every day, we can't have our full selection all day long.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the day, there's going to be people in line and there's only a tray of 10 donuts left. Like, let's say 10 donuts left of that flavor. And you see people in line like looking, and you could hear their thoughts. I hope that person doesn't take the last donut. I hear the person, and then they take the last donut and there's 10 guys back in the line and they're like, oh, fuck. It's like, so.
Do you ever see fights?
We've had some aggressive conversations. We've had some people have some aggressive confrontations, but no fights. But I tell them like
they're pissed that the flavor isn't there anymore.
Yeah, and it's like we tell them, it's like, we could only make so many donuts in a day. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
because I guess they went there for that donut and it's not there anymore.
Or they went there for donuts and then that flavor that they really like isn't there anymore. And it's because we're not the only ones that do it. You go to places like a lot of the sourdough bakeries. It's a 24 to 72 hour process to make certain types of bread. So you have to plan 3 days in advance. We don't. We make it's a very yeast heavy dough. So we make everything from the morning. So my dad goes in at 4:30 in the morning, starts the dough. Then the guy starts cutting, the cutter starts cutting at 5:30, but we only open at 10. So we need to prep for
Did everyone just hear that? So the Bernie Bang, to give you guys fresh donuts, are in the shop at 4:30 in the morning to make sure that they give the customers the best tasting donut.
That's it, and it's fresh.
That's a good hustle, though.
That's what makes it work.
Yeah.
So we open at 10. People are like, oh, these aren't like normal donut shop hours. But it's like the sad reality is that people have gotten used to these chain commercial donuts that come frozen or that come from a central factory that have these multi-million-dollar conveyor belt machines that just crank out donuts all day long. We're people cutting donuts. We're three guys.
Handmade.
It's handmade.
Yeah.
It's everything's fresh every day. So in that small store, we could crank out up to like 5,500 donuts in a day. That's one store. That's, it's a lot of donuts for anything. And we pride ourselves on making everything fresh. If you come on a Saturday at 3:00, the guy's still frying donuts. Our fryer's still frying donuts. So when you come, let's say you're the last customer, and I still happen to have donuts at 6:00. If we haven't sold out already, your donut's 3 hours old.
Yeah.
It hasn't been sitting there from the morning.
And you're opening
or some overnight cook.
What are your opening hours? 10 to
6
10 to
or
6.
until we run out.
Okay.
And that's a big problem that we face, the until you run out part. Because on Google, you can't put like until we run out.
No.
You have to put a time.
Yeah.
So people show up like at 5:55 and we're like,
and you're out of donuts.
we're passing them up. And like, what are you doing? We're like, we're out of donuts. Yeah, but you close at 6 or until we sell out.
Yeah.
So you have it like on your store hours in front of the door. You have it on Instagram. You have it on Facebook. You just can't put it on Google. So a lot of people that rely on Google will see, they close at 6. I'll go there 5 minutes before they close. But it's like any pastry shop or bakery.
Yeah.
You go last minute, you're going to get less choices, if any.
What's better for business for you guys in terms of brand awareness, Google or Instagram? Would you say?
Instagram, yeah, or
Dude,
any of the social medias.
I was looking at your Instagram page a couple days ago and this morning as well, just to kind of brush up. And you guys get views on your reels. Some of your reels get 20, 30, 40,000 views.
Yeah,
that's a lot, and that's all organic.
It's all organic. So we haven't put a penny into social media marketing. It's
into paid ads.
Into paid ads, yeah. So like
do you put money into the actual creation of the content, or that's all off a cell phone? And because I know your wife helps out quite a bit.
That's Jess.
That's Jess.
She does everything, and she has a 9 to 5. She's 9 to 5. She's a property manager, so she's on call 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
She got a call a couple of weeks ago. On a Saturday. There's a fire in an apartment. She has to get up from the house and go deal with the fire in the fire department and come back home. So in the middle of all this, she's reposting, she's editing videos, she's making posts. It's a lot of work.
Does she edit everything on her phone?
On her laptop.
Okay, so she has like a Adobe, I guess.
Yeah. She does.
I don't know either. Like we edit a lot of stuff. What we use Adobe, I think, right? Yeah. Okay.
So for her pictures, she uses like Lightroom and stuff like that, or Photoshop if she needs to. And then she's like reels, I guess. I don't know. She does them on TikTok or Instagram, whatever the platform is to do reels. Like I give her full control.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
She does a good job.
She does an amazing job. We're at almost 29,000 followers.
Yeah, all organic.
In 2.5 years, all organic.
Yeah.
And obviously you do a little bit of collaborations with like some other like well-known, as like, so when our first Christmas, we did like a lot of collaborations and giveaways.
Yeah.
That helped us a little bit, and it helps everyone else too. And then this past year, Doubles opened on Park Avenue.
Yeah.
Chef Danny Smiles, my friend Vic. Shout out Coach Vic.
That's my buddy Zach Makovich.
Yeah,
I'm good buddies
exactly.
with him. He's been on the pod as well.
Yeah,
so it's like,
So Zach, that whole team, they're great guys.
Yeah.
And they approached us. They're like, we want to do like a dessert donut for the bar. So we're doing one for them, and it was exclusively only at Doubles that you could get that donut. And now I just got a text today, so we're gonna do something now soon for me, like
spice it up.
The fall season, like switch it up a little bit. It's like it's an on and off thing.
Yeah.
And that gave us huge recognition, because when a group like that with that much reach, and they got crazy exposure too when Dave Grohl, went to have a few drinks there, I guess, after a concert once. Crazy exposure, and to have your name on that menu, it's like, donuts from Bernie Bang.
Because you guys can synergize the audience.
Well, so that's it. So people are like, oh, Bernie's cool. Where's this place? Oh, it's right down the street.
Yeah.
So, and then they're coming, oh, I saw your donuts at Doubles. I want to get like a selection, because that one, like I said, the one we were doing for them was only available there. So they get to come try the rest of our donuts. And even just reposting, we have, you know, I fanboy a little bit sometimes, because obviously to have someone like Danny Smiles,
Yeah.
you know, as a young cook at heart, you look up to someone like Danny Smiles. We had Chuck Hughes come a couple of weeks ago for his kid's birthday.
Doesn't he live in the Island?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know where he lives, but I mean,
He's a big name, Chuck Hughes, in Montreal.
He's huge.
I would say probably the big, well, you know
one
more
of.
than I do.
He's one of. He's
Yeah.
definitely up there. But like, so like he has TV shows. He has his own
Yeah.
product line. So
Yeah.
he's huge. So to have a guy like
and he's
that,
a likable guy. He's really
yeah,
relatable.
he's super
Like,
nice,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So he comes to the store, and like I fanboyed a little bit. Like you
Yeah.
know, you see Chuck on TV all these years, or you go to Garde Manger and like you see him in the kitchen.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
oh, I'm
yeah.
not gonna go up to him and say hi. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit weird,
Yeah.
you know. But you see him at the store, you shake hands, like, you know, big fan of what you do, or big fan of everything that you did. I'm a fan of all your products. I'm a fan of your TV shows. And he's like, you have the best donuts in town. And then you're sitting there. It's like the most awkward 30 seconds of your life. You're like, thanks. You don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
So we get like a lot of like celebrities. Well, we haven't had like Dua Lipa or stuff like that come by yet.
I love Dua Lipa.
But like we get like a lot of like restaurateurs and chefs come, which is
Yeah.
cool. Which they take a picture, we repost it, and then through their posts, we get a lot of people that, you know, we had someone, we have the guys from Toys Auto Arts
'Kay.
order our donuts all the time.
'Kay.
And someone came to the store. They're like, we didn't even know you existed. I saw your donuts from a post that Toys made,
Yeah.
and now I'm here. So it's crazy how social media works.
It's yeah, you're absolutely right. Like social media, we're still trying to find the right touch. I think it's a little bit more difficult for insurance,
Yeah.
just because it's not really cool or
Yeah.
sexy, and everyone hates insurance. So like no one's gonna share a story like a photo of their policy. Like,
Yeah.
hey, just saved $300.
Exactly,
Tough to
exactly.
do, but donuts on that front are it's awesome to see. I want to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So since you guys have started the business, you started the business 2.5 years ago, you said. You started the business during COVID. Thing popped off after the Gazette basically forced you guys to open a little sooner than it sounds like you wanted to. What's gone according to plan, and what has not gone according to plan with regards to running the business?
I don't think it's as simple as what has gone and what hasn't gone according to plan. I mean, because you're always trying to manage growth, and because
Yeah.
of the product that we serve, I mean, it's a very time-sensitive product.
Yeah.
And, you know, going back to cooking, especially pastry and baking being an applied chemistry, like if it's 40 degrees, full-blown humidity outside, you have to manage the dough. So we were pretty busy at one point, and we couldn't keep up with the frying. So we would have donuts ready to sell, but we were so busy that customers were coming in and there'd be no donuts in the display. So you're like taking the donuts out of the fryer, sticking them in front of a fan so they could cool. So you could dress like, instead of dressing a tray of chocolate donuts, let's say, you're doing 5 pieces of chocolate, 5 pieces of Simpson, 5 pieces of Oreo. You're doing them almost to order.
The customers must love that, though, because they're getting like a fresh donut.
The donut is dripping.
Yeah,
like it's a
yeah,
hot
yeah.
donut
Oh,
with
God.
warm chocolate
Sounds
on
delicious.
it. Yeah, yeah. But it's not a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But you just ultimately feel bad that you can't serve people what they want. So we had to switch gears a little bit. Right before we closed for our last summer vacation, this last summer, we got in a second fryer. We reorganized the kitchen a little bit. So now we could make basically more donuts in the same amount of time. It's not like, from 5,000 donuts, we're making 10,000 donuts. It's not like exponential in that sense. It's just like I get those same 5,000 donuts out in a shorter period of time. Because it's all about prep and not falling behind. Because if you fall behind, there's no catching up. So you always give yourself like a bit of a cushion. And I mean, it's just managing growth. It's managing growth, and obviously, like, staffing is an issue. At the beginning, staffing during COVID was impossible.
So you guys, as the owners, all three of you were probably there every day.
We still are.
Yeah.
We still are. If you come to Bernie's, there's always 2 owners there. There's always 2 of us there, and it's I think that's very important. And it's not just because we have to be there. We enjoy being there.
Yeah.
Like it's our baby, right? And when you see something that's doing well and genuinely makes people happy, you're there. Like there's days where I'll go in like early morning, whether my father can't go or the guy that does the early shift can't go. I'll go in the morning and yeah, I could leave at 2, but I'll stay till the end of the day just because like what am I going to do? I'm going to go home and do what?
Watch TV or Netflix.
Watch TV or
scratch your
Netflix.
ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go on YouTube and just get lost in the reels.
Yeah,
or like,
yeah.
So it's like I'm going to
Get upset at something.
exactly see something like, why is this on my phone?
Yeah,
Throw it
yeah,
across the room.
yeah.
No, so it's like you just stay there and it's fun. And being in a neighborhood like the Mile End, you get to know your regular customers. You get to see repeat customers. You get to see faces, and like you generally you create a relationship.
Yeah. And a brand.
With your customers and a brand.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. We're like your neighborhood donut shop.
Yeah. Are you concerned though that like, and again maybe I'm jumping the gun here because I don't know what your plans are, because it's like it's a very I have to sneeze. It's a very hands-on production process, obviously, from the sounds of it. Are you concerned that it's not necessarily like scalable? Like let's say you were to open up a second location, because you need to have someone who really cares about the process. I mean, to get someone to show up there at 4:30 in the morning and to really make the donuts like properly with that TLC, that tender loving care, like are you afraid that it's not, or it's going to be a very difficult process to replicate? Or you could also just say like, no, I'm happy having this one storefront. We have no plans to open up other places. We're good with just this one shop.
I mean, you do and you don't want to open another store. Because like right now it's like you're doing like it's going well, but there's no guarantees that if you open another store that second store is going to do better than the first one, or if that second store is going to pull away from the first one.
Yeah.
So it's a very like, and you just have to scale exponentially. You have to have, it would be a partnership. So
yeah.
You need to have people with skin in the game. It's not just a matter of the three of us building another store and just telling someone, okay, you have to come into work the next day. Like you could pay him a great salary, but at the end of the day, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but an employee will always be an employee. Yeah.
They think differently. And that's not to say, that's not to bash like employees, but it's something, you know, I listen to Gary Vee every now and again. And he had a good point. He goes, why would you expect an employee to care as much as the employer, as much as the boss? He goes, pay them as much as what the boss is going to make. Yeah. And even at that, some people aren't interested in running a business. They have no interest in running a business.
It's not even just a matter of paying someone that much money. A lot of people think like, oh, the owners make all the money. We didn't take a pay for the first 6 months. Yeah. You don't take a pay. As an owner, you have to make sure your store works and your employees get paid before you get paid. Yeah. So
and you're also taking the risk. That's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. If you take a big risk, there's money, there's your time that's going into the initial investment. That's a big risk. It like this could have not worked.
Of course.
You know, and like the fact that you're taking that big risk, it could have been a whole year before you realize, hey, this didn't work. You wasted a year of your time, a lot of money. Yeah.
What was my life savings at the, well, it was like my life savings at the time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a risk that in my opinion, not everyone agrees with this, but in my opinion that, you know, it's risk reward. If you're taking that risk, if let's say in 2, 3, 4 years, it's successful and you're making a lot of money, well, you took that initial risk. You should be compensated for that initial risk.
You should, but you should also like, we try to make it with our employees. Like we want to make sure everyone's happy too. Because, you know,
of course,
and like we're on the weekends, we're a big team. We're like 8 or 9 people in a 1,000 square foot store. Yeah, it's pretty packed in there. You know, and we'll do, you know, like 1,000 physical bodies in and out of the store. So okay, it's 500 tickets, but everyone that's coming in is families. Yeah. So it's someone's coming with their 2 kids, someone's coming as a whole family, someone's family's here on vacation. You have a 10-person group coming to the store. And so we're seeing a lot of bodies, and it's mentally draining.
For sure.
Because you're repeating the same thing over
same questions.
6 or 12 donuts. What flavor? Our most popular ones are 1, 2, 3. Like it gets mentally draining.
For sure.
So you need to have enough people on staff to like give everyone a break. It's like, okay, you decorate, you come on the cash, you go take your break. You know, like I'll be like the Joker. I'll just kind of be like a little bit everywhere. it's very hard because like a lot of our kids, especially on a lot of our kids, a lot of employees on the weekend, they're all part-timers.
Okay.
They're all kids. They're all in school and like legitimately kids 17, 18, 19, 20. Not that I'm an old man, but it's like they're kids. I look at myself being 18, 19 years old and really not caring or really not knowing where I was going in life. So you just try to like, you have to try and steer them in a way like, hey, you don't have to be here, but you're here, and when you're here, you have to apply yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's what you pay them for.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's like, so there's a lot of great employees out there, and there's some employees that don't apply themselves as much. And I always find it really frustrating when you ask someone to do something, and they're like, well, why would I do that? And you go, it's like, that's what you're paid to do. That's
like we still clean the toilets.
The owners. And
back when I was working downtown at like that really ghetto area of downtown,
yeah,
like we had there's a lot of, that area is notorious for like heavy drugs, opiates, meth. You know, it was normal to walk into the street and see someone smoking a crack pipe in front of the store. Completely normal. And we had a buzzer on the bathroom. And every now and again, some of these people would find their way into the bathroom, have an overdose, poop all over the place. And it's like, as much as it's, yeah, sure, the dishwasher or the busboy's job to pass a mop or a broom at the end of the night, he's like, I'm not cleaning that up. Forget it. There's no money in the world that you could pay me. So as an owner or as a manager, what are you going to do? Leave a pile of crap in the toilet?
But like, this is where I'm going to push back just a little bit. So and here's why. I used to be a busboy. I started off as a busboy, and then I became a waiter. I was an assistant manager. Like, I started when I was 18 years old, and I worked in the restaurant industry all the way until I was 24. Restaurants, then I came here into insurance. But so I worked at this restaurant when I was 18 years old. I was a busboy at Marlowe. It's not there anymore, but it was on St. John's. And there's going to be a bunch of people that probably know what Marlowe is. And there's this one guy in particular. It took a process of elimination, but I finally figured out who it was because he would shit all over the toilet in the men's washroom, and I always had to clean it.
Yeah.
So, and I would clean it. It was disgusting, but I would clean it. And I finally figured out who it was, and it was this guy. And I figured out whenever he would drink red wine, because he would come in, order red wine, and the red wine would obviously give him the shits, and he would go in and he couldn't even hit the toilet. Like, he would just shit all over the toilet. Yeah. But I would have to clean it up. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of kids these days that if that was their job as the busboy, they'd be like, no, I'm not cleaning that up. But it's like, I don't know. I'd be like, well, it's part of my job. Maybe it was rougher 15 years ago working in the restaurant industry. But, dude, like, working as a busboy, I worked at Buonanotte, I worked at Marlowe. Like, when you're a busboy, dude, you got to be tough because they will kick the shit out of you.
And when you're bussing tables, like, a lot of people don't realize it, but it's like the very dirty jobs in the restaurant industry don't get the credit.
No.
That they should be getting.
They
don't. Busboy and the dishwasher, like, if you're a cook short, someone's going to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
If you're a waiter or waitress short, someone's going to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
If your dishwasher doesn't show up, you can't serve.
Yeah.
If your busboy isn't showing up, filling the waters, bussing plates, bussing tables, the waiter doesn't have enough time to actually take care of the table.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot. And so as a busboy, you're taught to, like, stick your fingers in glasses, pile on plates. You're scraping people's food after it's been in their mouth. They could have spit it up. Like, back to that old adage, you don't know where that mouth has been.
No.
Like, you know, who knows what that person has?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you're like cleaning it. You're putting the plates in the dishwasher. You're scraping things off. Like, so I feel like in a way I could understand because it's someone's crap, literal crap that you have to clean up. And you're like, there's no way I'm doing this. I'm 18 years old. I'm not picking up crap. And then it goes back to like having that sense of responsibility of it being your store. And if no one else is going to do it, to avoid an argument, like, I'll do it. Like, at this point, I've done it once. I've done it a million times. I'll continue to do it. Just like when I was younger, it's like I never understood people that broom the front of their storefronts.
Now you get it.
Now I get it. Now I do it because it's like, oh, the city didn't pass the sidewalk cleaner.
And they never do.
Yes.
But I used to have to do the same thing. So I would go out. Like, that was one of the first things at Buonanotte. Man, they treated me like shit. But I got taken advantage of. They didn't pay me on time. They didn't pay me the right amount. I got gypped on tips. Like, they took full advantage of me. And I'm not here to try and bash Buonanotte, which is no longer an establishment. It taught me, you know, you need to be tough and you need to stand up for yourself. And so, like, I remember being an 18-year-old walking up to the manager going, where's my fucking money? I remember saying that because it had been 3 weeks and I was so pissed. I went into work, and kept saying next week. And I went there and I'm like, where's my fucking money? And he goes, oh, don't talk to me like that. And dude, I was pissed, but I was nervous to walk up to him and say that. But at the same time, I was pissed. I'm like, no, you guys keep taking advantage of me. I got to stand up for myself. And I learned like what to look out for in the next job that I had. And you also realize that like the world isn't that friendly and you do need to stand up for yourself.
For sure. 100%. And that's why like we like to say like being a business owner or an entrepreneur, you're part referee, you're part psychologist.
Yeah, you're everything.
You have to be you have to be everything. So in terms of like managing staff, everyone has leadership capital. So it's like, what are you going to spend your time arguing about versus not arguing about? If I sit there and nitpick every little thing, then they're going to be like, oh, this guy's just a control freak. I'm not going to do it because he's just going to he's just going to redo it after me anyways. As opposed to like, you just kind of like not really let things slide. You correct them, you re-explain, you retrain, and then it's like, hey, I've told you to do this way a few times. Please, I need you to start doing it this way. Whether it's like, if it's every time, you didn't do that. Oh, the napkin's not the right way. You know.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. And the thing is, there's a million different ways of running restaurants or small businesses.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so I keep on going back to restaurants just because that was my whole life up until 2.5 years ago. And I still have that like bug. I tell people like, don't get me wrong, I love what I do, but I still miss that rush of being in the kitchen sometimes.
So is the donut world, is it not as much of a, like when you're in the juice, is it as intense as a rush in a restaurant?
Well, like I said, it's not the same thing, because in the restaurant it's like it's in the kitchen. It's like you're a short order cook, so it's like
so between like 7 and 10, it's like
go.
Yeah.
So us, like I said, the most important thing is prep. That's why we're not open. If we're ready, we'll open a little bit before 10.
Yeah.
If the door's unlocked, we'll let people in. If the door's locked, it means we're not ready. We have a bunch of orders to fulfill, and we're going to be ready at 10 o'clock. And you always give yourself that extra little bit of leeway because things happen. Recently in the Mile End, we've had, I don't know how many power outages all the time. So the thing is with us, once the donuts come out of the proofer, you only have a certain amount of time to fry them. And with no power, you can't fry them. Your ventilation isn't working. We have like a state-of-the-art fryer where it's like electronically controlled and there's an electronic shutoff. So if there's no electricity, the fryer isn't working. As opposed to like old gas fryers where you just like leave the gas running, no ventilation. Just open a couple of doors and we'll get through it.
Have you thought about getting a generator?
Yeah, so that's we're actually getting one. We're actually getting one, you know, because it's just been like, we lost out on 3 days during Easter last year, during like the ice storm in April. Yeah. The whole neighborhood was rocked for 3 days. Yeah. And there was one guy that was open.
And killed it.
Yeah, it was our friend Vinny at Felicia on Park Avenue.
Yeah.
And somehow him and the YMCA across the street were the only people that had power in the whole neighborhood. And this guy had a lineup all day long. Because if you have no power at home or you have nowhere to go for your coffee, you have to go there.
Yeah.
And in a neighborhood with like, I don't know, 50 coffee shops, he's the only coffee shop. He had a lineup around the corner.
So he must have killed it.
Yeah. No, he killed it, and that's it. So, and we said, you know, it's always something you think about getting a generator, and then you're like, nah, we don't need it. Oh, it's one day. But it's one day becomes 10 days. You could have paid off the generator.
Yeah. And especially now, like the power grid in Quebec, it seems to be getting more and more unreliable. We're getting more power outages in Montreal and other places in Quebec. So it's kind of like more and more businesses are thinking about doing that. At our old office, we can't get a generator here for whatever reason, but our old office, we had a generator, and it was great. The employees don't like it because if the power goes off, it's like, no. You could still operate. And everyone's like, fuck, okay.
I'm going to turn the switch on. Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, no power. Oh, I get to go home. Like, no. Get back. Yeah. You're good. You can still take the phones and stuff like that.
That's it.
But, it was like the same thing for us because we had no power here. And for insurance, dude, I was fucking stressed. So one of the days, the first day of the ice storm that just happened,
You were getting bombarded with calls.
Where we're getting bombarded and we're down, and I'm like, oh my God, I was fucking stressed. I'm like, hey, what the hell do I do? And you know, I'm not saying they should, but no one else really cares because it's just like, so my cousin actually at Federal Steel, they were nice enough. They were closed on the Friday, and we were open on we had to be open for both days. And he actually was nice enough to let us use his office.
Oh, cool.
And we went there and held down the fort. So it was kind of like, but I got on the phones. Like everyone who usually isn't on the phones got on the phones and stuff. And we held it down. But that's what you need to do. And
well, that's it. And it's a matter of just like how fast can you pivot in a situation like that.
Yeah.
So after, it wasn't this last one. It wasn't that one with the ice storm. It was a couple times before that where we would have customers. So we would lose power. Our donuts would be made because they're fried. The problem is that now your batch of dough that's being ready to cut has overproofed. You have to scrap it. Your donuts that are already cut and out of the proofer, you have to scrap because you can't fry anything. So our donuts that were fried and cold, we could dress them. And our donuts that were ready to sell, we could sell. Because our point of sale system is an iPad, so it runs on battery. So you could still...
That was my next question.
So you can
process payments.
No, so I couldn't process credit card payments. I could still process cash payments.
Okay.
And, you know, so you process everything, and everyone's like, oh, well, why do you punch it in? Well, it's like, you punch it in. Like, and that's going back to, like, I'm digressing a little bit, but it's always like that thing in the restaurant business, like, oh, pay cash, save tax.
Yeah.
In the donut business, you buy 6 or more donuts, there's no tax. So what benefit?
There's no sales tax.
There's no sales tax.
You've told me this before.
6 or more donuts, or it's any pastry. 6 or more items, there's no sales tax. So it benefits me to declare the sales. I'm just adding equity to my business.
Interesting. 6 or more, so they don't have to pay that extra 15% sales tax.
Yeah, so let's say
it's $10, it's $10.
If it's $10, it's $10. If it's 20, it's 20.
Cool.
So we're serving people. And then we're like, oh, there's not enough people because everyone thinks the neighborhood has a power outage. And one lady comes in, she's like, oh, I'll make you part of this like Mile End neighborhood Facebook group.
Yeah.
And it's like, if ever there's a power outage, you shoot a message out and just be like, power outage, we're still open, come get donuts. So that's what we did. We had a bunch of donuts. We had like 30 dozen donuts because it was like a little bit later in the afternoon. It was like 30 dozen donuts. We're like, oh my God, we're going to be left with all these donuts. Which what we do when we have donuts left over, we give them to the hospital or something. It's very rare that we have that many donuts left over.
Or give them to other restaurant owners.
Yeah, so it's like cafes, So it's like if we have like, if it's like 2-3 dozen donuts left over, we pack them into small boxes, give them to a couple cafes, restaurants around the neighborhood. Yeah. If it's a lot of donuts, my mother will pick them up and she'll bring them to like a hospital or a fire station. So that day we were left like with a lot of donuts. And she's like, yeah, let me just make a post in the group. So I told her, I'm like, $20, cash only, mixed box. So instead of just waiting around doing nothing, we packed the donuts in boxes, mixed box. People were coming in, they're like, I saw it on Facebook. Within half an hour, we sold everything out.
Social media, man.
So we didn't waste any product. Because another big thing in the food service industry is food waste.
What in a restaurant, typically speaking, what is the percentage of food that's wasted? It's high.
It's gotten a lot better.
Okay.
It's gotten a lot better. So like with a lot of your vegetable trim, let's say, you can make a stock with it, or you can make a sauce with it. But I mean, every restaurant is different, and depending on what product it is you're serving. So if you're serving, let's say, like that's why dry aged steaks are so expensive, because you lose 15% just in water weight while that thing is dry aging, and then you have to trim it even more. So that's why the steak is expensive, not because a price magically appeared out of somewhere. That steak is expensive because you lost 30% of that whole rib cap, let's say, that's gone to trim. But you could take that trim and make like dried beef tallow or burgers, so you're not wasting it. Before, people just used to throw it out or like give it to companies to make dog food or whatever, So you could take all those trims and do something with it. With us, people are always like, oh, what do you do with the donut holes? We make our fritters, or you make like other types of donuts that you can't get out of like your first batch, which is your fluffiest. So you take that dough and you reuse it. Like if you do your job, if like we do our job properly at the end of the day, you should be left with like this much dough. You should just be left with like a handful of trim at the end of the day. And if you're doing like 500 pounds of flour, this is not a lot of waste.
No, it's not.
You know?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so if you, so you just have to find a way to reuse everything, and that's a big thing that people don't take into account.
Yeah.
Is waste. But restaurants nowadays, like, they're doing a lot better. A lot of people are into like nose to tail butchery and, you know, reusing like seasonal vegetables, or like going to the farmer's market, like, hey, give me a deal on whatever's like end of season, and they'll do specials with it. And that's the whole thing. It's specials. For 2 weeks, we have this root vegetable that's almost out of season, and we're going to do a bunch of dishes until we sell out.
Interesting. What's it like working or having a shop in the Mile End, and does construction affect your business? It sounds like it doesn't affect your business. The reason I'm asking this is because let's say you go down on Saint Denis, or you go down on other places in Montreal, and it's such a shame to see the construction absolutely decimate the street because there's no foot traffic and the businesses just die. So like, do you guys have to deal with that?
For sure. We because we're on the corner, we're between Clark and Saint Laurent on Bernard. So Saint Laurent is a major artery, but every time there's like a bike race or a marathon, or that gets closed off, and even Park Avenue will be closed off sometimes. So people don't have direct access to the shop.
Does that affect your business?
It does and it doesn't, but people will still make the trip
because you have the brand
and
recognition.
Walk. Yeah. So people will make the trip and walk. They'll complain about it. We'll complain about it too.
Yeah.
Because I feel bad for the customer that they have to walk 5 blocks and then they get 3 dozen donuts, have to schlep back to their car.
Yeah.
But even at that, like, the Mile End is notorious for not having a lot of parking. But whatever street parking it does have, it's always full because there's always people in the Mile End. You know, there's always people there. We're a street away from St. Vitor, so Olympico, Bishop and Bag, Tony Pizza, Falafel Yoni, you name it, they're all there. I just named 5 businesses on 2 blocks. There's an entire street. St. Vitor Bagels. You know, all the tourists come and they flock to St. Vitor Bagels.
Yeah.
But I mean, they'll come, they'll look for parking, or they'll double park in the bus lane, which the buses hate us for. But it's funny because even bus drivers, they'll like pull up to the bus lane, they'll put their hazards on, run in for a box of donuts, and I'll see the bus driver run. I'll bring him to the front of the line because I understand, like, he has a job to do, and he just wants to get donuts to bring home to his family. He's a normal guy like everyone else, or he's a normal guy or girl like they're normal guys and girls just like everyone else. They're people that want to come, get a product, and leave and bring it home to their family to put a smile on their kid's face. So I see the guy, there's a lineup out the door. I'll wave him down. What do you want? Boom, boom, boom. Put the donuts in the box. Have a nice day. And if people...
It's a good service.
We've had people pop a comment.
And
it's like, oh, why did he get to cut the line? I'm like, because he's a bus driver and there's people in a bus and he needs to go home. And he needs to go do his job so those people could go to their job or to go home to their families. You know, so you're very conscious about this. You know, we have a lot of firefighters come in, you know, and it's like they could get a call at any point. We've had it happen where firefighters have been in line and gotten a call and had to leave the line, get back in their truck, and go to a call. So we always try to, like...
Do you get a lot of policemen? Remember back in the day, when we were growing up in like the 90s, the picture was always like the fat policeman eating donuts and a coffee.
No, so we do get a lot of cops, and like they're great, and they come from like the neighborhoods around us, and they get donuts, and you know, they tell us, like, if you ever have any problem, just like we have a community worker that comes to the store, and she's like, if you ever have anything, here's my card, I'm at the station down the street. And I giggled a little bit because I told her the story of like where I used to work and what I used to have to deal with. I was like, the Mile End's okay. I could deal with it. It's I've dealt with much worse, and you know, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues with any of those problems. But you know, you do get like the less fortunate sometimes, like they come and they're like, can I just get a donut? And it's like, you could see, you know, you don't know what everyone has been through. Can I just get a donut? You give them a donut, it's like, sure, it's not a problem. You know, or like sometimes they're in front and it'll make customers feel a little bit uneasy.
For sure.
Yeah, then you tell them, there's a lineup, wait until there's no lineup, come to the store, we'll give you a donut, we'll give you a cup of coffee, and that's it. You can be on your way, and just don't bother customers. We won't bother you, you know.
Has that ever led to like more homeless? This is gonna sound terrible, but like it's a reality, because it does make families, and especially families with kids, feel uneasy if you have a homeless person who's there and they're drunk or they're high on drugs or something.
There's a couple of people that we have a couple of, I guess, regulars, if you want to call them. They'll come in, but it's not a problem. You just tell them, like, wait on the side. Well, that's it, because you feel like the uneasiness. And I've gotten like very thick skin from working in the neighborhood, so I'm a little bit like numb to it. I'm like, I see like homeless people or people like high on drugs, and it's just like, it doesn't faze me, you know. But the reality is like a family that comes in with like young kids, they might feel a little bit uneasy.
Yeah.
And so you have to address the situation.
Like you have to go speak to the guy right away.
You just have to be like, okay, wait on the side. I'll get you your donut. You know what I mean? Like, and just don't bother people in line.
Yeah,
like that's it. Come get your donut, get a coffee.
Yeah.
Leave. We're people. You know, we're people also. So like,
Yeah.
you have some sort of like, you know, who knows what his story is?
Yeah.
Is it just a bout of mental illness? Is it drug addiction? Is it alcoholism? You don't know. And it's hard to judge. And because there's I could have gone one of two ways. I could be the complete asshole that has zero remorse for these people, or seeing stuff like I used to see where it's like there's a 23-year-old pregnant girl high on heroin.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's sad because you don't know what led her to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And she's begging for food. Like, we used to give her a plate of pasta.
Yeah.
You know, there was one girl, like, that's one specific thing that stuck with me. But it's very tough. It's very tough. And that goes back to like being the referee and having to like manage people. It's not just managing your staff, it's managing customers, it's managing like things on the outside. Like you have to be everywhere. Your ears and eyes have to be everywhere in a business.
What's the most aggressive customer interaction you've ever had?
At Bernie's or in general?
At Bernie's.
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I've had people like mad that like they're waiting in line and they're like, oh, there's no more donuts. Like that whole thing, like you're in line and you see the last donut leave and they'll get aggressive. I came all the way from the West Island or like Laval. And it's like, come back tomorrow morning. There's going to be 2,000 donuts ready at opening. And they'll more times
they'll
than
come
not,
back.
and they're first ones through the door. And they're like, okay, now I get it. You know, so it's just, yeah, but Bernie's like, it's a nice little neighborhood shop. And the Mile End's a great neighborhood to be in. I guess like circling back to the question, like what's it like being in the Mile End? It's a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's great. Lots of families, lots of like young people, students, very touristy. It's a great neighborhood. A lot of people like, and a lot of New Yorkers will say this, it's kind of like our little Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know?
I enjoy the Mile End as well, and they have a
Yeah.
couple of the staples, all the locations you just mentioned a little bit earlier. You got Cafe Olympico, you got Bishop and Bag, you got you guys, you got what's the breakfast store?
B&M.
Not B&M.
Fabergé.
Fabergé. They're
Fabergé.
excellent as
Yeah,
well.
they're on Fairmount. They're a couple streets down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so there's like a lot of great little businesses, and they're all family-run businesses, and that's what's great. And the example I like to give about the Mile End is there used to be a Starbucks, and Starbucks didn't last in the Mile End. So it's like,
That's not the vibe of the Mile End.
no, it's not. It's like anything corporate or chainy or like it doesn't work. People want their mom and pop shops like small, cozy. Our friends, well, they're now our friends. I knew them like through some mutual acquaintances. They just opened up across the street. They're called Alphabet Cafe, under Ambrose Coffee Roasters. So these guys, 3 years ago, they started off as a small independent coffee roaster, and now opened up a cafe right across the street from us.
Okay.
And what separates them is from the other 50 coffee shops in the neighborhood is that they roast their own coffee. So every month they have a new coffee in the grinder, and you get to try different coffees, and they do little specialty coffees, and it's great, and it's a business that complements ours. You know,
Do you guys serve coffee?
just drip?
Just drip.
Just drip
like
coffee.
A regular coffee.
Donut and coffee. That's it. You know, we have like a little thing. You come get your glazed donut, cup of coffee, and that's it. But, you know, even though we're doing just drip coffee, we're buying the best drip coffee that's also economically viable to serve. You know, I don't want to serve a drip coffee at $5 a cup either. But people come just for the drip coffee. They're like, you have really good coffee. So that's nice. That's nice to hear. But it's just a matter of like making sure that everything you put out, like even down to the drip coffee, that it's not a main source of income for us. It's just like we drink so much coffee ourselves that it's basically a write-off.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that even that is the best.
How has the city of Montreal been with regards to like opening up the business? Have they been supportive? Have they been kind of staying out of your business? Have they been kind of a pain in the ass? Have they been? And the reason I ask this question is because like a lot of people, and if you don't really feel like answering it, you don't have to answer it either. But I know you want to be careful because you want the city of Montreal on your side. But there's a lot of other retail businesses and restaurants that operate in Montreal, and sometimes the inspectors, for example, can be a big pain in the ass for nothing. Like just for example, my girlfriend was having an issue over the summer during Grand Prix, and they put up the terrace, and the inspectors came by. It was like an inch and a half too big.
Yeah.
First of all, the street was closed. And they didn't have any. They're like, oh, it's to make sure the fire trucks can come by. It's like, what are you talking about? There's people everywhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, at what point, I understand that there needs to be a certain amount of regulation, but like Montreal and Canada, we love our red tape. We love our regulation.
Yeah.
I think there's way too much of it because it just basically stunts the growth of businesses and stuff like that. And do you think there's the right mix of regulation and also at the same time laissez-faire attitude of letting businesses run?
For us, so going back to the other restaurant, going back to Da Giovanni's, because you are downtown, there was a lot of like operational red tape.
Yeah.
And there's always inspectors, and like, because you're a big store and I guess like you're well known and stuff like that. There was like a lot.
But I feel like it's just I'll just say this one thing before you go on. I feel like it's just like, it's like they almost, it's like they're not on your side. Sometimes in some cases, it's like they're there to basically just make your life a pain in the ass, and they power trip.
It depends who you fall on. Honestly, it really depends who you fall on. I've had great interactions with inspectors, and I've had terrible ones. Luckily with Bernie's, like we run a pretty tight ship, so it's just like a few minor things. So when you open, you have to have a health inspector, you have to have a city inspector come in, inspect that everything's done properly, everything's up to code, fire code, safety, exits, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything that could be a detriment to someone's health.
Yeah.
So I mean, opening, they're like, as long as like everything is very clean, because there's people that open and their store's just a dump before they open. Like us, it was very clean, and it's a small store, so it's easy to keep clean. She's just like, oh, just like fine tune this and that. Done. Like the next day, she came back the week after, gave us an A+. She's like, see you again in 3 years. If you get a perfect, so like in the States, they have like the letters, so you have to post your grade in front of your store. Here it's all public information. You could go on the city site and just be like health violations and this restaurant, that restaurant, and you could see the actual health and safety report from that store. And if you get like an A+ or you get like a very good, I don't remember exactly how it's graded, but they're like, okay, we'll see you again in 3 years.
3 years.
They come every 3 years because
that's not bad.
It's not terrible. To be honest with you, I don't mind if they come a little bit earlier than that, because I feel like you could just like, you could give someone enough rope to hang themselves in 3 years.
Yeah.
Whether it's like you give a little bit of that reality check, maybe like halfway through, just like, oh, touch up on this, touch up on that.
Yeah.
We had one instance where like we had like these little foldable benches. So we have maybe about like 3 feet in front of our store. That's technically our land where we put benches on. And then when we're really busy in the summer, we would lay 2 benches like on the sidewalk, like edging the street. And we got a letter from the city of Montreal saying like, you're not allowed to have those benches there. This is just a warning. If you want benches, you have to apply for a terrace permit.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we'll pay the $100, whatever it is, for a terrace permit. We just want to have like 2 extra benches out so 8 people could sit outside. They're like, no, you have to build a terrace. You have to rent out the 2 parking spaces in front of your business, get an architect, do a whole drawing, build a terrace.
It's
and
ridiculous.
It was like, I'm not going to spend 10 grand.
But the stuff like this bothers me, because it's like at that point there, it's like they have the rules, but it's so, I don't know. I feel like it's complete overkill. It's like, dude, I'm just putting 2 benches. Let me put the 2 benches. I'll pay you.
And that's how a lot of it is. And I've had other friends of mine in the restaurant industry. I mean, like even now, like Derek at Maison Publique, which just recently closed, but I think it was last year. He had something similar with like, he put like a couple of picnic tables out or something with his terrace, and
yeah.
They were going after him like, we're going to shut you down completely until you like have this set up. And everyone in the service industry mobilized against it, and like went out and just like, okay, this is ridiculous.
This is enough's enough.
So I think they let him go, but he just had to like pay for a permit. Like they just kind of like let it slide. And even like some places like Impasto and Gemma went through it. Like for those of you who don't know, like Gemma and Impasto, it's Stefano Faita and Michele Forgione, like very prominent restaurateurs in the city. They had something with Gemma where they had like these yellow picnic tables out because they have like a little soft serve ice cream window at the pizza shop. And the city's like, no, you can't have the benches out. And it's But it's just like, why?
It's
It's
like,
like
why?
such a huge
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Why?
So now they worked something out where the same thing happened. Like they mobilized their voice and they used
Good.
their following on social media to just be like, hey, we just want to put a couple benches out,
Good.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not blocking off the street. We're not doing something. We just want people to have a place, because they have a terrace
Yeah.
for their restaurants. They just want a place for like people to get a soft serve ice cream and sit down.
And I feel
in
like
the area.
I just feel like too sometimes they lack the empathy. I've never lived this firsthand. It's just by restaurant entrepreneurs
Yeah.
expressing their frustration, and a lot of people don't like to speak up because they're afraid that they're going to be targeted by the city. But that's
Yeah.
the exact thing you don't really want to do, because if you, like you said, if you mobilize and you fight back, a lot of times they go, okay, whoa. But I feel like the city lacks the empathy to really understand how hard it is to run a business. And like you guys running a business and all these shops in the Mile End, I can guarantee you guys aren't like multi-millionaires making
Yeah.
all this money and stuff. There's a lot of tax to pay, a lot of
Yeah.
overhead to pay. You have your rent to pay. You have like just the fluctuations in business and stuff. It's very difficult to run a business. It's very stressful to run a business. And I feel like sometimes they just lack the empathy. And if you can get like a little bit extra revenue, it's a better client experience to get these benches or whatever it is. And they're just kind of like, no, ça c'est les règles, too bad. Like, I need to get this. You got to go get an architect, get this, get that. And by the end of it, you're looking at like, Jesus Christ, this is going to cost me $25,000 to get this.
Yeah, that's
or
it.
whatever it ends up costing, which you're not going to do.
Yeah. So for us, it's like, it was just easy. We're just like, okay, we won't put the benches up. Like, it's ridiculous, just like, because we're not going to spend that much money and get into a fight over the city for
Yeah.
2 benches.
Yeah.
And like it gets complicated because if you add, because like I said before, like we're technically a bakery with a market permit. So if I add an actual terrace with seats,
Yeah.
I become a restaurant or cafe, and then it just like shifts everything like tax wise and business wise and permit wise. Like it becomes this whole thing. So it's like I'm gonna go through all those headaches
Forget it.
to just like for some people to sit out front. So like we've asked, like we have a lot of city workers that come and like they get our donuts all the time. And I'm just like, hey, how can I get benches without? And they're like, you could just ask, like, because they put there's public benches, and like you could just ask the city to maybe put like a city bench in front.
Why do you
know what I
think? Why do you think brown envelopes don't exist anymore for paying the city?
No one has cash.
I feel like back in the day there was. It was like my dad told me the story once. It was the OQLF for, I forget the company, but this is like 30 years ago or something. So apparently he had some language violations or something. Like he didn't have the French the right side. I forget exactly what it was. But so my dad's at this golf tournament for the client, and my dad goes, who's that guy sitting in the corner? Like he kind of was sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
He's all drunk and he's eating and stuff. He goes, oh, he works for the OQLF. We bring him. He can drink as much as he wants, and we just tell him to sit in the corner, and he doesn't bother us after that. So
Yeah.
just like I just feel like stuff like that doesn't really happen anymore. I feel like it would be a simpler place if it could still happen.
The thing is like it's not worth it for us. Like it's
Yeah,
not,
I get
it's,
it. I get it.
Like
I
it's
get
just
it.
you're opening a can of worms. It's headaches. It's just
I
like
get it.
it goes back to like, okay, leave me run my business. I don't want any problems. You don't want any problems.
Yeah, I
like
get
I'll
it.
just do it. So we had a customer complaint with the OQLF that came to us, and like you get a letter. Well, we had an actual inspector come to the store, and she's like, hi, I'm here from the Office Québécoise de la Langue Française.
Yeah.
So cool. So working in that part of downtown that I worked at for 10 years, my French, like I speak French, and then I like to say I speak Québécois.
Mm-hmm.
So like I turned on my French, like I turned on my Québécois French, and she's like, oh, you speak French very well. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I was born here.
Yeah.
I went to school here. My French is very good.
Yeah.
So we're talking. I'm just like, please explain to me where I broke the law, and I'll correct it immediately.
Were they able to explain that?
No, because she goes, it was basically just like, it's in French we say it's a plainte non fondée, so it's just like a complaint.
Yeah.
But she's like, they're anonymous, and they just said something was written in English where it shouldn't have been. So it was like Bernie Bang. She's like, no, that's fine, because Bernie's a name and Bang is bang.
Donut. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, is it my hours? Because I had my hours written in French and then like a smaller size in English. She's like, no, that's fine. So I'm like, tell me where
And
I have something posted in
she
English.
didn't know.
She's like, well, I can't really say, but here's the warning. Okay. That leaves. Then I get another letter from Office de la Langue Française, and then it's something like, something on social media, they don't even give you the date or what the post is, was written in English. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to spend all this time going back. Like, cool. Let's just make sure that everything is in French and then English. And then I got another letter saying the sticker that Uber Eats sent me to put on my door wasn't compliant with Bill 101. So
The Uber Eats sticker.
the Uber Eats sticker. So it's like Uber Eats, livraison, whatever,
Yeah.
and then it says pickup. But it doesn't have like ramassage. It just says pickup. So like it has like livraison, delivery,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say, it just says pickup. It doesn't say ramassage or whatever. So in my mind, it's like, oh, I could make a big stink or argument about this.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you should go after Uber, and I'm gonna call Uber, and I'm gonna call like Uber now. There's like no reps. It's like you're calling and you're getting put to you're getting sent to some call center, and by the time you actually get to where you need to go, you just wasted 3 hours on the phone, and then there's no guarantee that anything's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just for a sticker. So it's like, cool, easy fix. Rip the sticker off.
Done.
Like you know where we are.
Yeah,
Uber
yeah,
Eats,
yeah.
we're here. You come pick us
But
up.
they made it. They came to investigate you off a post, an English post on social media.
Yeah, they go through your post.
Oh.
So it's just like, okay, well, like we'll be careful, like sorry. And I feel like I'm gonna get a little bit nerdy now, like it's taking ownership of something. And that was like something, I never read books in school. I'm gonna go ahead and say that straight out. Sorry to all my high school teachers, I never read any of the summer reading books. I was never a reader. But like, so I started reading books as I was getting like more involved in business. Like you see that like he got a little bit famous for a viral video, Jocko Willink, like wake up at 4:30 in the morning and get your day done early. Like wake up before the enemy, like all that thing. But like you read his books and it's just one of the most important thing. And it's the title of his first book, Extreme Ownership. Just take ownership of everything. Be like, it's my fault because I know the law and I know that shouldn't be there, but I put it there anyway. My bad. I got a ticket on my way here. I came off the highway.
Today?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, fuck.
Like literally the street, I got off the highway and I got a ticket because I was going 70 when I shouldn't have been.
Was it on the service road right here?
Yeah. I didn't slow down.
I should have fucking texted
It's okay.
you. Sorry, man.
No,
They're always there.
No, but so I didn't slow down. My bad. I was going 70 and a 50.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's literally a block away. I'm just going to coast into the parking lot. He pulled me over. He like turns on his lights and he points at me. So I was like, yeah, no problem, buddy. I was speeding.
Yeah.
I turn my car, shut my car off, license, registration, everything out the window. I was like, I was going a little bit too fast, huh? Like I admitted to what I did.
They like that.
And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, you could keep your registration and insurance in the glove box. It's okay. Like I had everything ready for him. Window down, car off, hazards on, just waiting for him. Because I knew I screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and argue with him.
Yeah.
I sped.
Yeah.
I give my thing. I give my driver's license. He comes back. He's like, I'm letting you off with a warning.
That's
He's
nice
like,
of him.
you pay the ticket. He's like, I'm gonna put you the ticket for speeding. That's it.
Yeah.
So it comes down to just like, at the end of the day, you're responsible for everything. Well, there's some things you can't control, but if something, especially in your business, if something bad happened, you're ultimately to blame for it as an owner. So I knew that's the post thing, whatever, we learned our lesson. The complaint, we couldn't do anything about it because we don't know what it was. But the Uber Eats thing, yeah, sure, that shouldn't be up there because it's technically against the law. I ripped it off. You know, I ripped it off. I'm not even going to call Uber for another sticker. I don't care. It's a silly little petty argument that I don't have time to deal with.
Yeah,
because
you're
I have,
running a business.
Yeah, I have much bigger problems to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at them like, what do you need me to do? Okay, sounds good. Like, you just kind of get on to the next
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, no, I get it. How much time we got there, Shem? Oh, damn.
Oh,
this time
quick.
flew.
Yeah,
An hour and a half flies
Yeah.
by, eh? All right. What do you got in store for Bernie Bang moving forward?
We're gonna keep making hot, fresh donuts every day. I mean, we're gonna see. Like, we're still managing growth. Like I said, so right before we
Would you like to eventually like open up different locations or
eventually, like
Okay.
there's definitely a market for it. Like in the suburbs, like West Island, South Shore, Laval.
Yeah, I feel like it'd do really well.
Those are three big markets. But like I said, it's just
Point Claire Village.
Yeah, huge.
Would do well.
Huge.
Right next to Wild Willie's or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it could do really well for you guys.
So for us, is right now just literally trying to manage the growth that we're still experiencing. But like I said, our biggest enemy is time because we can't like make more donuts in a day than we actually make. So our biggest days is obviously Christmas holidays. Halloween is a huge day for us.
Mm.
Our 3 biggest days are Halloween, Christmas holidays, and Super Bowl weekend.
Mm.
So we'll come in an hour early to get an extra batch out. But aside from that, there's no way to actually scale in the location that we are right now. Because if you want to make more donuts, you got to get a second table,
Yeah.
second mixer, second cutter.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
whole, it's a whole thing. It's directly exponential. But eventually, like, yeah, you do want to you maybe do want to open another store, but we're just not there yet.
And I
we
guess,
have,
like,
we have to finish tweaking our first store so that it's
make
perfect.
it perfect, and then
Make
you
it
can
perfect, and then you make
replicate
a
it.
manual, and then you go on
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
next
yeah.
store.
And I guess, like you were saying earlier, so ideally, and I know things change, but you'd probably have like an owner operator, so get someone with skin in the game.
Yeah,
They get,
yeah.
however that works out, they have equity, or they get a percentage of
Yeah.
revenue, or whatever the hell it is.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Because there's 2 models. It's either you go in like us, like, so let's say the 3 owners, like Bernie Bang, like as a company goes in 50% with someone,
Mhm.
or you go the franchise route, which is
Mhm.
like 5% plus 2% marketing fees and all that. But
Mhm.
when you franchise, you got to open a lot of stores to start making money, to start seeing money from that 5 or 7% that you're charging,
Mhm.
as opposed to like that 50%.
Yeah, there's different ways to do it. I mean, I
Yeah.
was listening to this podcast the other day. So you have McDonald's, which is, everyone knows that's the franchise
Mhm.
route, and then you
Yeah.
have Chipotle. I didn't know this. Chipotle is not a franchise.
Mhm.
Chipotle owns.
It's corporate.
Yeah, it's corporate. They own all the locations, and there's multiple. Like Warren Buffett always says, there's many different ways to get to heaven. So
Exactly.
there's no right or wrong way to
Yeah.
actually run a business. Today flew by, man.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to finish with here?
No, I guess we're just, we're lucky, and we want to thank everyone. I thank the customers all the time. Like,
Yeah.
thank you to the people that have come. And if you haven't come, don't feel bad. Like, I have people that, like, we know that it's like, oh, I haven't had a chance to come out here. The Mile End's a little bit out of the way for some people.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, like, parking could be terrible sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, come give us a try. We're not, I like to say, we haven't reinvented the wheel. We're just doing something the way it was always supposed to be done, and the way it used to be done. That's it. Like, no machines, no nothing. We're just a bunch of people cutting donuts, serving donuts, and that's it. And like, I'll just end on this. In the podcast with the guys from Satay and Tuck Shop,
Yeah.
you spoke about how, like, there was one of the points was like work-life balance.
Yeah.
So I grew up essentially without a dad because he was always in restaurants. So the way we have our shop modeled is that it's 5 days a week, Wednesday to Sunday. We open at 10, we close at 6 or until we sell out. We're closed on holiday. We're open like half a day on Christmas Eve. We're closed on Christmas, and then we break 3 weeks in the summer. Everyone goes on vacation at the same time. And that's really important. I think it's a shift that's happening in the restaurant industry,
Yeah.
especially after COVID.
Yeah.
Because you work so hard for something, and then it could be taken away from you just like that.
Yeah.
So you're like, you know what? Family and friends and everything like that and mental health and physical health is way more important than just like work 24 hours a day and just like try to make, because how much more money are you going to make realistically, and you're not taking it with you at the end of the day.
And then a lot of people too in like the restaurant industry, not a lot, but like enough, work their ass off to make all their tips, and then they're at the bar blowing all their tip money on alcohol after.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's like, I used to do that when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
I'd leave with like $40.
Exactly.
I'd spend, $50 at the bar after, but a different story. But Dean, thank you so much for coming on today, man.
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
It flew by. Yeah, hour and a half just flew by.
Yeah. It's always like this. But this is the Freemium Podcast. So go check out Bernie Bang. It's in the Mile End. They make great fresh donuts daily. There's a lot of buzz around the product that you guys provide. It's an excellent product. And I really appreciate you coming on today, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.